Good morning, everybody. Good morning. Welcome to Coffee Moaning.
Sorry.
I suppose quite a somber day today. Been
Yes.
listening to
Yes.
to the D-Day. Well, it's not celebrations, isn't it?
Commemorations.
Right? Commemorations. Yeah, on the radio. These lovely old folk, just talking so gently and so wisely. That lovely old man we were listening to on Radio 4 this morning. I think he was 98. He was on the boat at 18, and he was talking about lots of things. But right at the end, he said, war creeps up on you, and war doesn't really sort very much. It was really poignant, wasn't it?
It's interesting.
Creeps up on you.
It's interesting how lots of people who sort of are warmongers or, believe war is a kind of moment of nationalistic pride, very often haven't been through it.
Yeah.
When you talk to I'm thinking of even people like Greg J. Stoker, who's a former, an American vet from Iraq, who's, posts a lot about the Israeli-Gaza crisis, which we're going to talk about. So many veterans realize or discover the futility of it all.
And there's no glamour to war.
No,
there's no glamour. And I love listening to old people talk. It doesn't matter what it's about. I just love it, and I think we don't listen enough
I agree.
to our elderly.
Morning, Tim.
Yeah, Morning, Tim. And it was
a couple of things I thought came out. I was listening to that chap. I heard someone else on LBC ringing in and talking about a relative of theirs. Obviously my grandparents, your grandparents, they fought in the war. My two grandparents were in the RAF. They worked in signalling and signals. My granddad wanted to be a pilot, a Spitfire pilot, because of an eye issue. He couldn't pass the test. And my nan's brother, Uncle Ron, got injured at Dunkirk. And so D-Day is it's 80 years. It's curious for me because I've always, it's not just boys, but lots of boys are into soldiers and wars, and we're into those movies, and we grow up.
Because that's what you're sold.
Yeah, toy soldiers are something that were a major part. And I used to, when I say love it, I used to play all that stuff. It was always very exciting, daring do, all that kind of stuff. I just think I've always had a huge, I feel, sort of emotional connection with not the idea of going to war, nor about the questions as to whether if we hadn't, what would have happened. Yeah. And of course, history, we can see many moments, of course, we wouldn't have wanted to be run by Hitler, and, it all makes total sense. But I always just reach to the innocent boy, principally in the past, the youth, the 17-year-old, the 16-year-old, the 18-year-old, the narratives they're sold, the stories they're told, the reasons they do it, the belief, the trust. And it's the trust. When I think of films like 1917, when I think of Dunkirk, and even the Vietnam Wars, I just think the trust that is handed over to the authorities. And I
remember years ago, I used to talk a lot to my granddad, because nobody else would talk to him because he would go off on one. He was like, he could be very boring. Bless him, he could. He would go on and on and on and on. And he was in the RAF. And, and I would always listen to his stories, and I'd listen to the same stories because he loved to tell them. And he did make it sound glamorous. He did. And I think for many people it was, your nan would say that. But I remember one day saying to him, because he was talking about dropping the bombs out of the plane, and I said to him, oh my God, did you feel so awful? Because in my head, I was only little, I was imagining that would be an awful thing for him because he was, and he looked at me in the most puzzled way.
Wow.
And I remember it so clearly. And he said, no, why would I feel bad? They were the enemy.
Yeah.
And I remember I was probably about 8 years old, and I remember being really, really chilled. I loved my granddad, and my granddad was a good person and all of that. But I remember just being really confused and chilled by that. And these poor young boys that were not questioning anything, were they? And they give us that message when you listen to the way that they talk. And they are so, just so clued up.
Yeah, so clued up.
War, as he said, his final line was, "Be careful, war creeps up on you." Also, the interviewer said, there's a lot said about this generation, wouldn't step up, wouldn't be brave, wouldn't be doing. And he said, I have no reason to think that at all.
Yeah.
He was so lovely.
Yeah. Sorry, Reece, I plopped yours up at the inopportune moment. But yes, I wonder too, Reece. I think it's a really difficult thing. And so, I've always been of the opinion that we should absolutely not just, for me, poppies, Remembrance Sunday, commemorations, it's about remembering those who gave their lives. I'm not feeling it from I hate to say it, this could lead to all sorts of upset, but I don't feel it from a hugely nationalistic place. I feel it from a humanistic place.
Yeah.
I feel it from a place there's a moment in a recent film, The Great Escaper, and it's Michael Caine, and I think that's Dunkirk, isn't it? They're heading back to the beaches, and there's a moment where he meets, and actually it wasn't done very softly, he meets a German equivalent soldier of his age come back to commemorate. And the moment of non-dialogue and emotional connection between two ordinary men who were just ordinary soldiers in a conflict which was way over their heads. This guy wasn't a Nazi, who fed the concentration camps. He was just an ordinary soldier. And that connection and that distress and that upset, I think for me is the most important thing. I always remember as a child being massively, it gives me goosebumps now, when it was a terrible song. Was it the Frogs? It was the Paul McCartney song. I think he sang it. And in the video, they have the soldiers jump up onto no man's land and play football for that day.
Yes.
I never recovered.
I find that so extraordinary.
I never recovered. When I saw that footage, I turned to my granddad and I started crying. And I said, I don't understand why they went back to war the day after.
Yeah. It was totally extraordinary, that, isn't it? They just came over the lines, jumped out,
Pipes
played
of
a game,
peace. That's it.
Pipes of peace, and then went back.
Now
that line from that old man today: "Be careful, war creeps up on you."
Now, the weirdest part of all of this is, at a time like now, I also think, as we're thinking about these things, you can't help but think, then let's translate and let's look at what's going on in the world at the moment. And I'm going to say, I feel I have to sort of say this quite bluntly. The same quality of life or value to life just isn't given in all quarters, in all conflicts, in all situations. We are going to get onto the Israel-Gaza crisis, the latest hit. The language that I want to, the phrase that Al Jazeera and a number of Middle Eastern-looking sort of news outlets have been using, which was used by the UN, was that they've described in only the last 3 or 4, 5 days what they say is an insane escalation. And I think the reason I've put that in the title, if what we're seeing now is an insane escalation, a couple of things come into play before we talk about the specifics of what's happened today. It's been insane already, so how much more insane can it have got? And we're hearing less, which makes you wonder that when it was as insane as it was, how much have we still not heard?
They keep blacking out the internet, so it's not getting out in the same way. But I was looking at this morning, and somebody had commented underneath, it's almost like the more we speak out, the more aggressive it gets. And I commented under this one, I said, that is my fear. It's like every time more is revealed, it's like there's a race to get this done, to get them. I'm just reading
the room just for a minute. I can see a lot of long comments coming in actually about D-Day. So before we jump, I just wanted to kind of point towards the fact that we are going to be talking about that. But a lot of you are sharing your thoughts. A ray of sunshine.
Because for us,
on D-Day,
it's like it all sort of
entwines. I will always remember watching a film where two sides at war in the trenches, a horse gets stuck in barbed wire, and two soldiers came together from opposite sides, rescued the horse, and then went back.
That. Why is that's really familiar?
Yeah, it was it. Yeah. It's not wars.
The humanity,
is it wars?
The humanity within war that you see.
Yes, exactly.
It's a beautiful thing, isn't it?
And when you see the humanity in war, it's usually from the foot soldiers who are the humans,
not
the officers. Rhys Roberts, I think the humanist way should be the way we approach the commemoration of war. The nationalistic approach to me makes me feel like we treat war as a badge of honour, which is unsettling to me, beautifully put.
But what we want to do is remember the humans in it and the human cost. Yeah.
Karen Reynolds, my granddad never spoke or spoke very little. However, he watched Merry Christmas, Mr. Lawrence with David Bowie, and he cried and said it's the truest film he has seen about World War II.
Really?
It really gets me when I think of older men and women having to hold it all in.
Just don't talk about it.
No. I saw a lot of the results of war when I was homeless. One boy who lived in the shelter had scars all over his back from dogs who'd savaged him. Soldiers threw him in that dog pit. War never changes.
Yeah. It's brutal and it's ugly and it's messy.
Creatorholic, my great uncle died in World War One. He left a diary which I was going to share online because it was so enlightening. He spoke mostly of looking forward to his egg and chips, and he died on the front line.
Don't. The home comforts, like those young men, boys getting out and playing football and being young and being free and just playing and then going back to it.
Me Too draws our attention to a sinister detail. Israel knows that on the 6th of June, the media will be entirely focused on commemorations. That hadn't even crossed my mind.
Because, of course, we've spoken about that before, how it's not on big events.
Big events. And it's interesting you should say that because, of course, I compiled, these are the images of commemorations that are happening today.
It's really interesting that
but
you say that,
right, because, of course, Biden's there.
It's so interesting that you say that because, of course, we are horrified about what happened yesterday in Israel. And we talked about D-Day and we said, can we talk about Gaza today because of D-Day? But thank you for saying that because it reminds us that, of course, we must.
Yeah.
We must. Because war is ravaging the world at this very moment all over. Wow.
I would say no one has learned anything from anything.
No.
Absolutely
I don't
nothing.
think so.
And I think what we're looking at as well in terms of the West, and I hate to say it.
Well, in the leaders.
In terms of the leaders.
Yeah.
But what I would say is, I mean, the word appeasement is something that we often think about in terms of the run up to World War II and how, Chamberlain and how we all kind of appeased in the 30s. Hitler didn't take any action as he slowly encroached and took these measures. Appeasement. And, so appeasement became a dirty word. And I think it's interesting that obviously the big debate always around Putin and Ukraine is, should we appease? And that's the argument. That will be the rationale in Biden's office, in the Oval Office, where he says, "Let them shoot the missiles at Ukraine. This shows that we're not appeasing. We're kind of, we're putting our money where our mouth is." The weirdest thing in all of this is, as many people talk of appeasement as the kind of the coward's way out or the most ineffectual form, we have seen and witnessed the most hideously weak appeasement and gaslighting appeasement of the US and UK governments towards Israel. If you want to know what appeasement is, if you think, I don't know if I want to study Neville Chamberlain and our run up to World War II, just look at the way we have appeased Netanyahu. We are watching historic appeasement. We will, when we look back at this chapter in history, we will look at the appeasement of the Israeli government and the Israeli far right. I mean, that is why this is happening. This crisis is currently happening due to Western and principally UK and US government appeasement.
I saw this really good post today of this woman saying, we're all banging our heads against the wall. We can't understand why this is happening. Why, on the one hand, Biden will say, be appalled by what's happening, or David Cameron's concerned about, but they do nothing. Is because the line was the US, the UK, and various countries are Israel in a trench coat. It's like if you just think, we wouldn't stop sending ourselves bombs. We wouldn't have a go at ourselves for doing what, because they are basically in the Middle East. Israel is their country. It's slap bang in the very wealthy Middle East, very wealthy. Let's not forget, follow the money for everything. Follow the money. There is money at play here, big time, with the big players. Okay,
we're now going to move on to, I just want to end our D-Day chat with, go to the British Legion website has 10 interesting facts about D-Day. And this is an interesting one. As a historian and as a sort of, as I said, into soldiers, D-Day doesn't stand for what you might think it might stand for. What do you think it might stand for?
I suppose I don't know.
D-Day.
This.
We just say it, don't we? We say it in relationship to everything. Well, apparently the D stands for day, which means it's actually, strictly speaking, Day.
No.
Which is nowhere near as catchy, yeah.
Did anybody know that?
I love
why
that.
do we just say
So the term D-Day is used by the armed forces to refer to the beginning of any operation. The D stands for day, which actually means it's short for Day. Before the Allied attack in June 1944, there would have been many D-Days. However, this was so iconic, it came to be used solely when referring to the beginning of what was actually called Operation Overlord.
I just want to see if anybody knew that. Be honest. Did anybody know that D meant day? That's a great fact, Mark.
I love that. Yeah, no, I just and a couple of other something else I wanted to show you as well. Look at this. This is toy boys and their toys. This was an inflatable truck as a decoy used by our army as kind of to distract weaponry and bombs. And I've not seen an inflatable truck made that well.
Inflatable?
That's inflatable. Back in the Second World War. How good is that?
Oh my God.
So these are sort of decoys, they would create fake. So it would look like they were creating a fake mobilization in a different place.
I wonder if there's still one of those.
I know.
Inflatable, it's so easy to pop.
Well, yeah, but you're not creating it to defend the country. You're creating it as a decoy. No, but
if you're driving it round.
You don't
drive not driving it, but if you're putting it somewhere.
Of course you do. You take many okay, let me explain. So on the cliffs of Dover, you take at least 20, like you blew up,
But it would blow off if it's inflatable.
Oh, babe, listen.
It's a
bear with
big
me.
balloon.
Listen to. Thank God you're not in charge of strategy. So on the cliffs of Dover, you have a German flight, reconnaissance,
and
they go. They look.
It's going to fly off.
Not if the British Army's nailed them to the ground like tents.
They
look
nailed
down
them to the ground. It's going to burst
with ropes like a tent. Then the Germans think there's a huge number of trucks there.
It's very
there
clever.
Aren't any.
It's very clever. It is. That is.
I don't know why that image.
That is fascinating.
That is an astonishing
thing.
That
is totally fascinating. The D-Day and this now together, I'm fascinated.
Are you? Do you want a bit more fascination?
Yeah.
Okay, here's another great fact about D-Day. Obviously, this one. Right. So it was originally planned for the 5th of June. However, in British fashion, due to bad weather cancelled play, and it was therefore postponed until the day after. But here's the other detail that I thought was quite interesting. Special equipment was being invented, such as inflatable trucks. But the south of England was transformed. So the jump-off point for the attack was obviously the south coast. And the entire bottom half of the UK was transformed into one large army camp. All civilian and diplomatic travel was restricted and journalists were constantly monitored. Imagine the entire southern coast barred from access to the entire population and one enormous camp. I just thought that was absolutely astonishing. Fake news played a big role. Inflatable trucks, fake camps, fake messages and all that kind of stuff. It's just some interesting details there. Interesting. Yeah. Truck come trampoline. I mean, for anyone who's into war movies and stuff like that, which, let's face it, completely sort of disattaches any humanistic reality to it. You watch a film and you're not really.
Do boys still play? Are toy soldiers and everything still a thing?
I don't think they are. I don't know. I mean, I don't have any boys.
Has anyone got any sons? Does that still
G.I. Joe and all that kind of stuff? I don't know. Anyway, right. Moving on to more serious matters. Unfortunately, so the news this morning is that Israel have struck. How do you pronounce it? Nusrat? Is it Nusrat camp? The initial reports are Al Jazeera reporting that at least 45 are dead. Israel have officially come out stating that they have killed in the strike 20 Hamas operatives. They're claiming, straight away. In fact, no, they're saying 20 to 30 fighters were targeted in the Nusrat school. And if you tell, so let's just, I don't know, for shits and giggles, let's say that the Israel are accurate in that assessment, say 30, 45, 15 children have also died in the strike.
And that won't include, can you imagine the injuries as well?
Yeah.
The injuries, more amputees. Now, I saw a really sad report on this day, another young journalist who's been, found themselves covering this horror story. and she was just standing just in pools of blood. And she said, of course, there is nowhere to hide now. She said, they struck at night, women and children screaming their heads off. They're terrified. And she said, look, they're all down there because there's nowhere else for them to go. So they're having to stay in the school where they were all sheltering, that was bombed the night before. They have to stay there. There's literally nowhere else for them to go. You cannot keep blowing up civilians and just saying Hamas
was there.
You can't do it.
Well, no. But I think the frustration for me with this
not legally, not without that being a war crime.
No.
I listened to the ICC investigator. He said you cannot simply say no water because there's going to be Hamas and they might drink water. No food because there's Hamas. He said you can't do that.
No, you're absolutely
breaks
right.
International law.
And I think what's really, really fucking gobsmacking and despairing about this is through the sheer process of a war of information attrition, it's just becoming, even we as, free Palestine, free the hostages, get just humanistic. We need a humanistic solution to this awful, awful long-term occupation. We look at this, and when we hear them say Hamas, the fight, the willingness to fight, it's such a kind of nasty, tricky, sticky bear trap of a justification for civilian deaths. It's
no
such
justification.
a hideously...
There is no justification.
No, I know. But in their heads, it's such a hideously kind of... It's like you feel for Israel and America when those slimy fucking representatives stand up in the White House. This is like a slam dunk for every set of civilians that is killed. It's like Hamas was there. And as we've said before...
James O'Brien was brilliant on this yesterday. He drew the same example that you have throughout this, Mark. He said, imagine if we were just blowing up schools and hospitals, say, because the IRA are in there.
Well, yeah.
Imagine at the time if we had done... He said, that is the same, what they're doing here.
Yeah, but I had a response from someone under something I posted the other day in relationship to that, obviously a Zionist, who said, just because you didn't blow up Belfast doesn't mean we shouldn't.
Oh, my God.
I mean, when you look at the comments under a lot of things on Twitter and everything, under things that have been reposted, of things that you've said, I've said, other people, lots of people are saying, oh my God, the inhumanity baked into the responses is petrifying. It's like a real life, I'm telling you right now, some of these people are like real life horror stories. This is like The Walking Dead, but but The Walking Dead are these people who feel so immune to any of the normal kind of checks and balances of being a human being. It's quite frightening and staggering when you see the comments that come through of how people seek to justify it. And the weird thing is where Israel keeps tripping itself up is they keep using this language of like, we are the moral ones and we are the only
the democracy,
and we are the only democracy in the area.
Middle East.
But they're also the only democracy that prevents anyone from sharing anything about anything, saying anything to anyone, and that is actually illegally entering the West Bank and destroying it. They have illegally now separated the Gaza Strip in half. Their engineers are in the Gaza Strip now building watchtowers across a central road. I forget the name of it. Their engineers have built a central road. So what the plan is here is to separate Gaza into two. So imagine when you were in school and you have the kind of globule of a molecule, snip it in the middle so they separate. So they're kettling in each side of it, control it. Watchtowers. What are these things beginning to sound like? Watchtowers, roads, restriction, walls, fences. Israel have also made uninhabitable 33% of what there was of the Gaza Strip. So uninhabitable means essentially Israel over time will claw that to itself. This is a slow and atrocious colonization and invasion and finalizing of the finishing of a people. What's happening in Lebanon? Do not be fucking fooled. They are prodding, poking and prodding. They killed another Revolutionary Guard guy in Iran, hoping for some kind of response in Syria, who was in Syria. I'm not saying any of these guys are goodies.
War creeps up on you.
Lebanon, the Lebanese border, this is... Netanyahu hasn't gone up there for any... He doesn't give a fuck about anyone, Netanyahu. He only gives a fuck about himself. And he's up there because he's trying to just tap. What they'll do, and I promise you now, this is what's going to happen. I promise you. I promise you. War will happen between Israel and Hezbollah, and all the world's attention will be distracted, meaning that Gaza will be slowly consolidated. Well, the gains that have been made by Israel will be consolidated, and the oppression will continue in a way that still no one is commenting about in the West Bank, where the popularity in the West Bank of Hamas has gone up. Why?
Because they've got no one speaking up for them.
This is a plan. This is the way they want it.
The brilliant speaker we saw the other week that was saying, world, if nobody stands up for them, they are going to have to reach to whoever they can. Yesterday, the scenes in East Jerusalem were just absolutely sickening, which we don't have to go into here and now.
Well, I've got some stills. This was Jerusalem Day. If you want to know what a hate march is, Sawalha Braverman, just check out the footage in Jerusalem yesterday. A day where
this one man, and look how many beating him up.
This one guy is a reporter.
Imagine what that young journalist has already had to see.
And this is a day when Israelis can walk through Jerusalem and sort of basically, scream a lot about it being theirs and they should have it and they conquered it and all this kind of stuff.
So it's the celebration of the occupation of Jerusalem in 1967. And the soldiers...
to quote one of the women, they said the celebration of taking it.
That's what I said.
No, but it's just like, but taking it.
Oh, yeah, they celebrate the taking of it. And the police and the army all stood by and watched. Some amazing groups of humanitarians, so brave, that go into East Jerusalem to try and protect the Palestinians and their businesses. The Palestinians aren't even supposed to come out of their homes. That's how dangerous it is. And they were screaming at the top of their voice, death to all Arabs, burn the villages, burn the cities. Yeah.
I've got a funny...
Incredible.
Incredible. I've got a very funny feeling that many of the
other
high-profile Zionists in this country aren't talking about that hate march, are they? Where I don't think there's any ambiguity about death to all Arabs.
I mean, can you imagine?
I mean...
I just want to give a little shout out for the Metro newspaper.
Here it is. Here.
If you could follow them on Instagram, if you're a supporter of Palestinians, if you are against the genocide, if you are wanting to know how you might be able to. People often say to us, "What can we do? What can we do?" And the Metro have put out this article today on the 4 top things you can do to help the Palestinians. It's incredible.
Yeah.
So check them out, have a read of it. But there's one here that I thought was really a really practical thing that we will be doing now, eSIMs. Israel has destroyed the infrastructure needed to access the internet in Gaza and is also blocking access to it. Most of the time, Palestinians are under a total online blackout. At the moment, there's a lot going on because of that. So eSIMs, I didn't know about these, are virtual SIM cards which allow people to connect. They played a major role. So the Cairo-based non-profit Connecting Humanity has been at the forefront of the campaign.
I'm going to put a link for Connecting Humanity underneath this live.
So I think you send money and then these eSIMs are bought and shared. So that seems to be like a really practical.
Because bear with us, in the fog of war, there are. I mean,
actually, let me just finish. Because in so many ways, it gets information out to us. But also remember, families have been displaced, have been, for months now. So they'll go for months without hearing from each other. So that's such a great practical way to help people.
Absolutely.
In both ways.
And I really want to say, because there are so many people kindly, empathetically, we know people who've been caught out by this. There are, as with all these tragic things, there are so many people seeking to take advantage of kind people. And one of the things that does happen a lot is that there will be not real Palestinian civilians claiming that they need support online and this kind of stuff. And people get drawn in. And actually, some of these are being created by the opposition bots and then some by just, Zionist bots. Some are being created by opportunists, obviously. But it's really hard to find a way, actually, because Israel also controls the income of revenue and the outspending of revenue in Gaza, the West Bank and Jerusalem. So it is hard to know how does one get stuff there?
And one of the things they suggest in this article is fundraising for families. So there's something called Operation Olive Branch and Project Watermelon are among the most prominent volunteer-led, and they help families directly with that money. So again.
Yeah, and these are really good. We're going to pop these links under. I'm going to pop a link to the article as well. Obviously, there are all sorts of boycotts that can be done, what have you. For example, big news, and doesn't mean one changes one's position. Pret a Manger pulled out of investing in 33 new restaurants in, I think, just Tel Aviv alone, or in Israel certainly, through boycott pressure. I've certainly noticed in central London, Pret a Mangers are virtually empty. So the boycotts do happen, do work, and they do put pressure on people. Carla Hatcham also says here, yes, been getting a lot of them. So do be mindful of, there are a lot. Try and find a more as formal a route.
Well, read this
article, I think, is really helpful. Here. Just finally, a couple of other things. I am going to be doing a kind of roundup of some of what I think are the even more disturbing, obviously dramatic news stories that are happening behind the scenes. As with all these things, I'm always drawn to as much as what's happening in front of us, which is awful today with this attack, but also behind the scenes, it's those slow encroachments and shifts and changes that for me signal where things are going to go next. One of the biggest worries I've got is Trump and the degree to which he is desperate for a woman called Miriam Adelson's cash. She is a multi-billionaire donor to the Republican Party.
No, she's a billionaire. She's a multi-billionaire.
She's worth $23 billion, and he's looking for approximately 50 million to 100 million donation from her. What is her sort of caveat? What is her sort of precondition? She's going to give it to him. Her precondition to giving Trump money.
Listen to this.
Is the erosion, removal, annexation, and taking control of the West Bank. If you want an indication of where things can go and could go under Trump, that's where it's going to go. We have this invidious situation where we have the ineffective Biden, who's a Zionist, appeasing and supporting in kind, still, because he's still sending all the bloody weaponry, Israel, versus a guy who will actively say, Jerusalem is for Israel, West Bank can be Israel's, and now there's a little smidgen of Gaza left to go. So what is going to happen? What is going to happen?
Let's remember that veteran. War creeps up on us. His words.
I want to end.
Not an easy day today.
I do want us to end on something that is truly just silly. You could argue, whilst the world goes to pot, the Brits just stay about as rural and inconsequential and odd and eccentric as possible. But there was something in this that made me, for a moment, feel, the Brits. Thank God for us just being so fucking stupid. So, cheese rolling.
Biz launches the food, and the Homo sapiens can't help but chase food. I'm basically already in pain watching this. Oh, look at that hang time! Bam! He's pulling away. I don't think tracksuit wanker can catch him. Although, as we know, it's not over till it's over at Cooper's Hill. Is it over? No, not yet. Down we go again. Who wants it? Who's playing to win, to quote the Little River Band? Oh, he's popping off! That's the best hang time yet. Fuck me on a pogo stick. How's your neck, though? Some of these dickheads won't feel their injuries until 20 years later. They'll be having a chat to someone, and their head will just fall off. And they'll be like, crikey, why didn't my head fall off? It's on the floor. Oh, because I did that cheese rolling festival. That's a likely future scenario. Come on, big unit, down you go. Look out! Whoa! Ninja rolled out of the way. That is disgusting. 1 minute, you're minding your own business, hunting dairy. The next minute, a wannabe hero in sloppy, muddy undies, presumably muddy, tries to steamroll you. He's going hard. Wham! That is what I call face planto perfecto. I show speed from YouTube is on the far left over there. He's a bit jet lagged. He's like, oh shit, the cheese is loose. Cheese loose. Shit, fuck. Oh, do I even like cheese? I don't even know if I like cheese or England. This one is full on. This is like watching the birth of a baby giraffe, and it's trying to find its legs and walk, but keeps tripping. You're on its side, but also can't see it surviving. Have a look at old mate Abby from North Carolina, also in the red there. She is in the peak of her tumbling career, crashing and bashing, ragdolling her way to victory again. It was only a matter of time until someone from me hometown of Perth, Australia got involved. Fuck yes, Dylan, fuck yes. He's so fast, the camera can't keep up. Oh, I think he got it on the line right there. Just a classic go with the flow Aussie style.
actually believe it. He's so right when he goes, they're not going to feel these injuries, many of them, for
20 years' time.
Because we know that, you know, when you're young,
Until they're
people
having
go,
a conversation
look
with
after
someone and their
that
head
injury.
falls off.
That's gonna come back to plague you.
Oh.
And I was like, would go like that, and all those little injuries I've got plague me now.
Every single one of those will regret that in 25 years. His commentary was sensational.
God.
Well, there you go. We just needed a bit of light relief.
We did. Really exciting curly cooks tomorrow.
Oh my God,
folks.
Such a goodie.
We've got a surprise.
It's going to be premiered,
Our
so
first
it's not live, but
surprise
it's going to
chef.
be premiered.
Yeah, because it was a pre-record. And yeah, I'm going to post a bit about Daisy today and tomorrow's.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm talking like it's Friday.
It's the day after tomorrow.
Oh, it's Thursday.
Yeah. All right, guys.
I thought it was Friday.
But anyway, yeah, you've got lots to come there. That's on Saturday, and you've got a lovely pre-recorded Sunday show coming as well on Sunday.
So see you tomorrow.
Lots of love, guys. Take
Bye.
care. Bye.